June is a clueless jock who bro-zones his best friend after mistaking her love confession for a joke. However, when she suddenly turns into a hot baddie who wants to do freaky workouts with him, he decides to rizz her up and crack her. It all starts when June's childhood best friend, Tomo, confesses her feelings for him, but the blockhead shrugs her off, assuming she means she loves him as his bro. That's when she realizes that he thinks she's a boy, so she swears to use her non-existent feminine charm to rizz him up soon. The next day, as they walk to school together, June hits her cakes, telling her to walk faster.
Yeah, boy.
But Tomo is so embarrassed that she punches him in the gut instead. At school, she rants to her friend Misuzu about how she is tired of being bro-zoned by June, but Misuzu says she deserves it for always acting like a jock. She also tells Tomo to talk politely like a girl for starters, but when she tries it out in front of June, he calls her an old geezer instead. This pisses off Tomo again, so they start bickering, during which June grabs her collar, exposing her melons. She gets embarrassed and tells him to let go, but the clueless loser refuses, only to get knocked out again. The following day, June apologizes to Tomo, admitting that he doesn't get why she's been hitting him lately. He tries to tickle her from behind, only for Tomo to get embarrassed again and punch him. June still doesn't get that constantly getting touchy-feely with her is what's making her angry, but he tells her not to ignore him, as he cannot stand it even for a second. This rizzes up Tomo, so she forgives him, and they share a fist bump while she curses her luck, wondering when June will start seeing her as a girl. Later that day, Misuzu asks Tomo why she always eats lunch with her, instead of June, despite being glued to him for the rest of the day. Tomo replies that if she and June have lunch together, it'll appear as if they are dating, but Misuzu is tired of their drama at this point, so she heads back to class and reignites her bad blood with June, telling him to have lunch with them. Even though he isn't thrilled either, they all settle down, and June suddenly grabs Tomo's hand to eat the fried chicken she brought, while Misuzu gives her a bombastic side-eye.
Bombastic side-eye.
Tomo gets flustered about eating from the same chopsticks again, as it would mean indirectly kissing June. A few days later, a simp named Tanabe asks June if he has done freaky workouts with Tomo, and the idiot says yes, assuming he meant actual exercise by it. Misuzu overhears this conversation and later tells Tomo about it, so Tomo angrily sprints back to the classroom to beat him up. Later that evening, it starts raining, and while June waits for Tomo to come and share her umbrella with him, Misuzu appears, revealing that she is waiting for Tomo too. Just as the two start bickering as usual, Misuzu asks why June isn't joining a sports club, to which he says it's because Tomo wouldn't be there. This annoys Misuzu, so she tells him to confess his feelings to Tomo before she gets a boyfriend. Just then, Tomo appears and realizes that they are both relying on her umbrella to walk home. She quickly offers it to Misuzu, who gives her a death glare and tells her to share it with June instead.
Stupid!
Later, as June walks home with Tomo, he tells her to get closer to him because he notices her shoulder getting drenched. Tomo says she can't, as she stinks after doing karate at the club, only for June to sniff her and say that she smells really good.
Yeah, boy.
Tomo starts blushing and runs away, but June eventually catches up to her. Just as he asks what's suddenly up with her, he notices her milkers showing through her wet shirt and hands her the umbrella, before running away while blushing. A few days later, after Tomo spars with the karate club president, Misaki, he questions if she has settled into the boys' club yet. Tomo says that even though she would rather be in a girls' club, she can't do it, as no one sees her as a lady. Misaki tells her that even though she doesn't feel like it, she is a really cute girl, which makes her blush. Tomo questions what part of her is specifically feminine, only for Misaki to stare at her melons like a cultured guy.
It should have been me, not him!
But answer that her personality is what's girly. The next day, Misuzu tries to push June's buttons again, and tells him Tomo has a new guy friend at her karate club. At first, June is not happy, but after Tomo shows him a picture of Misaki, he assumes he's a girl and lets his guard down. Later, two fangirls of Misaki come up to Tomo and introduce themselves as Ogawa and Meifune. They tell her to back away from their Prince Charming, but the airhead offers to help them rizz him up instead, which turns the girls into her hardcore fans. A few days later, when June gets on the bus with Tomo, he shamelessly takes the empty seat and tells her to sit beside him. Even though she initially tries to squeeze in, sitting too close to him starts messing with her heart, so she stands up and reminds herself once again that he doesn't see her as a girl. Just then, Tomo feels a cultured old man touching her cake from behind, and even though she wants to beat him to a pulp, she stays quiet as she doesn't want June to find out about this. However, he notices the tense expression on her face and quickly grabs the geezer by the collar, questioning what in the world he is trying to do. After handing him over to the authorities, June walks home with Tomo, who feels delusional and assumes June has finally started seeing her as a girl. Just then, he turns around and tells her to stop wearing skirts, saying that it looks weird on her and makes him feel uncomfortable too. This earns him a rightful punch to the face from Tomo, who cannot believe his audacity. The next day, Misuzu gets worried for Tomo after learning about the perv on the bus, and only calms down after she learns he's been handed over to the police. Tomo then tells her about what June said regarding her skirt, only for Misuzu to explain that he said that because he doesn't want her to get bothered again. This makes her blush and question if it means he really does see her as a woman now, but Misuzu takes her words back as her inner sadist takes over again. Instead, she tells Tomo that her skirt is a little too short, which is why it doesn't suit her at all. Tomo explains she wears it like this because it makes it easier to move around, only for Misuzu to suggest that she take off her shorts once in a while because they ruin her entire look. Later that day, as a depressed June walks down the hallway, Misuzu teases him about the bruise on his face, but June is too tired to deal with her antics, so he pays no heed to her. Just then, she mentions that Tomo wants to walk home with him and is waiting for him downstairs, which breathes new life into the idiot, and he quickly rushes down. However, when he finds Tomo wearing a skirt so short that it barely covers her plot, his soul leaves his body for a moment. He eventually exorcises his inner cultured guy and starts walking home with her, but even if Tomo apologizes for hitting him earlier and tries to talk to him, he refuses to look at her. This reminds her of how Misuzu said that if she wears her skirt without the shorts, she would get a different reaction from June. Just then, the idiot hits his face against a lamppost, making Tomo realize that this is probably what Misuzu was talking about. Later, as they get on the bus, June gets brain damage and assumes that everyone is staring at Tomo's cake, so he starts glaring back at them. When they get off the bus, Tomo notices that June is almost running away from her. She quickly catches up to him and tells him to slow down, but just then, a gust of wind shows him the view under her skirt, and the poor virgin passes out.
Yeah, boy.
Later, when he comes back to his senses, June apologizes to Tomo for trying to dictate what she should and shouldn't wear the other day. He also mentions that she should only wear things that she feels comfortable in, but Tomo doesn't hear a word, as she is too busy creating Wattpad stories about them in her mind. The following day, Misuzu asks Tomo how showing off her plot armor in front of June felt, only for her to almost take her out with a ball. Amused that her scheme has brought her dumb friends closer, Misuzu later goes to June and tells him that Tomo has been looking really gloomy since he isn't talking to her. Even though he is initially pissed at her, June eventually makes up with Tomo while Misuzu watches them from afar and wonders how long they will keep entertaining her. A few days later, all the boys in school gather around the school's very own Sydney Sweeney, named Carol, to observe her jiggle physics. Tomo wonders whether being the most popular means that Carol is the girliest girl in their school, but Misuzu replies that her popularity doesn't come from her looks alone, but from her status as the only foreign student at their school. Later, she comes across Misaki, and is shocked to find Carol by his side, holding his arm. She questions why they are together, and while Misaki says they are distant relatives, Carol states they are engaged and have been married 3 times. Tomo cannot fathom that a vanilla boy like him has more experience than her, but Misaki explains that Carol is talking about a game they used to play in their childhood. Just then, Tomo mentions that she and Carol are in the same class, but the blondie says that she has no interest in the boys until Tomo explains that she is a girl. After learning this, Carol keeps popping up in front of Tomo, calling her stupid, and Misuzu realizes it's because she is jealous of how close Tomo and Misaki are. A few days later, Carol pops up in front of Misuzu and asks how she can defeat Tomo. Although tired of it all, she tells the blondie to seek help from either June or a therapist if she wants to go up against Tomo. That day, Carol sneaks into June's locker and asks him to teach her how to fight, and though he doesn't find her interesting or strong, he agrees to become her unpaid teacher after she keeps pestering him. From that day onward, June starts hanging out with Carol, which gives Tomo a heart attack. She questions Misuzu about what in the world is going on between those two, and the sadist says they must be clapping behind her back because June usually doesn't hang out with random girls. Meanwhile, June finds that Carol can't even do one push-up properly, but she insists that she can jump rope like a pro. As soon as she starts her demo, June notices her jiggle physics in action
Yeah, boy.
and shifts his gaze to the roof, trying not to become an even bigger gooner. Later, just as he teaches her how to break out of a headlock, Tomo enters the gymnasium and grabs him by the collar, demanding that he explain what in the world he is doing with another girl. Seeing those two bicker makes Carol realize that Tomo actually likes June, not Misaki, so she admits her defeat and ends her training arc. The following day, Carol asks Tomo to become her friend, while she recalls how every girl in the past always rejected her. Surprisingly, Tomo instantly agrees, which turns their girlfriend group into a trio. Later that day, as she talks to June about how she never imagined becoming friends with popular girls like Carol and Misuzu, he accidentally reveals that he and Misuzu dated for a bit 2 years back, which gives Tomo instant brain damage. She wonders why her so-called friends didn't tell her about their relationship, and later corners Misuzu, asking why she dated June despite knowing that she likes him. Misuzu calmly says that Tomo didn't tell her about her crush on June until they graduated, making Tomo wonder why she didn't just tell her anyway, as they were best friends. Misuzu says June was the biggest mistake of her life, so she wanted nothing more than to forget it, especially since they only dated for 72 hours. Later, as the girls settle down, Misuzu reveals that 2 years back, June suddenly asked her out, and she agreed because she wanted to piss off all the other girls who had a crush on him. Eventually, she got tired of him after he made her run laps over steep hills in the name of dates and decided to break up with him. However, he beat her to it and kick-started her lifelong hatred for his audacity. Tomo asks if she really doesn't have any feelings for June anymore, to which Misuzu says that she does, but all of them are full of hatred. She also asks if they ever kissed during the time they were dating, only for Misuzu to confess that she would have drowned her mouth in acid if that had ever happened. Later, as Tomo walks home with June, she asks him again and again whether he has feelings for Misuzu or if he likes someone right now, but her firmly says that he doesn't, which puts her mind at ease. The next morning, Misaki greets Tomo, and June finally realizes that the cute little chick Tomo showed him previously is actually a dude. Suddenly, he smacks Misaki on the head, only for Tomo to answer him with a punch too. Now, back to being a good boy, he politely greets Misaki before giving in to his demons once again, and almost crushing the poor femboy's hand while challenging him to a karate duel. Tomo strangles him and apologizes to Misaki, promising to discipline her rabid dog before letting him meet anyone again. Later, June finally asks Tomo what she is doing being all chummy with the boys from the karate club, even though she's in the girls' team. Tomo reveals that she had to switch to the boys' club after she terrified the girls in her team, which makes June smack his head against the lockers. Later that day, June asks Tomo to walk home with him, but she turns him down, saying that she has already promised her girlfriends. When he starts pouting like a cub, Tomo promises to give him all her attention tomorrow, while Carol and Misuzu watch them from afar, wondering why they aren't dating yet. On their way back home, June and Misaki cross paths again, and after recalling the elaborate lecture Tomo previously gave him, June tries to treat Misaki like a decent human being. However, the femboy stays 100 miles away from him as he values his bones a lot. Later, as they get on the bus together, Misaki asks June why he hasn't joined their karate club, even though he does karate at Tomo's dojo. June explains that he doesn't want to lose to her, which he inevitably will if he fights her fair and square, outside of the dojo where they have no rules. Misaki is surprised to learn that he casually hits Tomo and immediately forbids him from doing so, reminding June that Tomo is a girl. He sighs and states that even though he doesn't want to, Tomo keeps coming at him like she wants him dead, so he has no choice but to defend himself. That's when Misaki realizes that June looks up to Tomo like him, and wonders if they can actually become the leaders of her fan club together, but he quickly discards the idea when June glares at him again. The following day, Tomo asks Misaki if he and June are buddies now, but Misaki is too terrified to tell her that he would rather stay 10 miles away from him, so he nods his head. This makes Tomo weirdly giggly, so she yaps that even though June is such a 10 on 10 sigma, he still doesn't see her as a girl. Misaki finds it weird that she thinks this way, given his conversation with June the other day. However, just before he corrects her, June appears behind him like the Death Reaper, making the poor boy piss his pants. A few days later, Tomo goes on a date with Misuzu, who asks why she and June aren't hanging out lately. The jock replies that even though he keeps asking her out, she has no choice but to turn him down because she needs to take care of her heart health. only for Misuzu to mention he might end up dating somebody else during the time she is busy protecting her heart. The following day, she shyly asks June if he would like to hang out with her during the weekend, and he surprisingly turns into a golden retriever and says yes while wagging his tail, making her wonder what his deal is. Later that day, Misuzu tells Tomo that even though it appears like a friendly hangout to her, it is actually a date in disguise, so she needs to buy proper clothes for it. The girls head to the mall after school and buy Tomo a dress that doesn't turn her into a drag queen overnight but still makes her look a bit feminine. When June sees her dressed so cutely the following day, he says nothing and just takes her to a batting cage and later a bowling alley, where Tomo beats him at everything easily. Just then, she awkwardly asks if he would like to go to a karaoke room with her as well, and June agrees. However, when they get there, Tomo shyly sits in a corner until June asks her to sing, to which he questions why he even agreed to come here in the first place when neither of them can sing. June says it's because he has always had fun doing whatever she has suggested, and Tomo gets rizzed up. She quickly grabs the mic and starts singing nursery rhymes in her tone-deaf voice, all while June laughs and captures her on his phone. The next morning, while June watches the videos that he recorded of Tomo, he realizes that throughout their date yesterday, there was something different about her. A few days later, Tanabe approaches Misuzu on her way to school, but even after he introduces himself, she doesn't seem to recall who he is. Later, Tanabe tells June that he really wants to see Misuzu smile, but June gets confused and asks if he's tripping, since the girl is smiling all the time. While June recalls her villainous smirk, Tanabe blushes, thinking he means her soft, sweet smile, and says it must be nice to be her childhood friend. After leaving him, June meets Tomo and asks if Misuzu has been smiling at her too. As she tells him she barely does, Tomo secretly wonders if her friend still has a thing for June, if she smiles at him of all people. Meanwhile, Tanabe sits in front of Misuzu in class, trying his best to make her laugh, but since she's not interested, she tapes his mouth when he gets too annoying. After leaving, Tanabe bumps into Carol, who also has her mouth taped, and she reveals she got it when she tried to get freaky with Misuzu. After some time, Tanabe approaches the wannabe emo girl in the hallway again and asks what it'll take to make her smile. This prompts her to ask if he likes her, and when he confirms, she tells him to man up and approach her seriously so that she shoots him down with a smile. However, instead of getting sad at being turned down, the proud simp gets strangely thrilled. The next day, Tomo sees two girls hugging and playfully teasing each other and wishes she could do the same with her friends. When Misuzu hears this, she asks if Tomo has finally learned to swing the other way, but Tomo denies it, insisting she just wants friendly affection. Just then, she asks Misuzu if she can try it with her, and despite being friends since they were in diapers, the girl straight up denies and sends her to Carol. Meanwhile, the blondie happily invites her with open arms, and as they hug, Tomo touches her assets and realizes that girls are supposed to be soft and squishy. Back in class, Tomo sulks, saying the hug only made her realize she's built like a football jock, but Misuzu comforts her, saying Carol is practically a different species, blessed with extra plot to compensate for her lack of brain. Over the next few days, Carol starts hugging Tomo without warning whenever she sees her, which somehow puts Misuzu in a bad mood. One morning, when Carol hugs Tomo at the school gate, Misuzu passes by them without a word. Though Tomo calls out to her, she only gives them a cold greeting before walking away. When June points out that the Ice Queen is colder than usual, the girls decide to uncover why she's acting like that. When Tomo realizes she's been distant since she asked for more girly interactions, Carol dramatically concludes that she must be the cause of Misuzu's tantrums. All of a sudden, Carol rushes to class, smacks her head against Misuzu's desk in apology, and promises she'll stop bothering Tomo. Misuzu calmly accepts her apology and later meets Tomo on the rooftop, where she apologizes for acting like a toxic girlfriend, before offering to hug her like she wanted. Without hesitation, Tomo headlocks her against her massive melons, and Misuzu barely manages to free herself, asking Tomo why she's never tried hugging June. When Tomo replies their relationship will become weird if she does that, Misuzu reminds her how the dude always acts like a clingy fanboy towards her, so it won't be a problem. With this revelation in mind, Tomo approaches June after school and casually hugs him from behind, only for him to stiffen up before pushing her away. This surprises her, and she asks why he did that, to which he replies, saying bros don't get touchy with each other. When she reminds him how he's always doing the same thing, June states that he's the only one allowed to touch her, which angers Tomo, and she lands a well-deserved punch on him. Later that week, The two girls tell Tomo they won't be having lunch with her, so she should eat with June alone. Tomo initially protests, but eventually gives up and heads to the classroom. Unlike her, June gets excited to finally be alone with Tomo, without Misuzu cursing the air around them. However, Tomo's attention is fixated on their classmates, who are all wondering if they have reached the clapping stage of their situationship. Meanwhile, Misuzu asks Carol what kind of advice she needs, but Misaki suddenly shows up and is surprised to see Carol with another girl. When Misuzu introduces herself as Carol's friend, he immediately grabs her hand and thanks her for looking after the airhead, who he says he sees as a little sister. Watching this, Misuzu realizes why Carol wanted her advice, as Misaki has clearly sister-zoned her, despite her obvious feelings. When he leaves, Misuzu comments on how both she and Tomo are head over heels in love with clueless idiots before they return to class. Later that day, while talking with Tomo, they are interrupted by Ogawa and Mifune, so Tomo excuses herself to talk to them. Mifune reveals that one of the school delinquents is pestering Ogawa, and asks if Tomo would accompany them while she turns his proposal down. After school, as the girls meet this so-called gigachad, Tomo turns him down on Ogawa's behalf, saying her friend has no business with an ugly hobo like him. The cocky guy says his love life has nothing to do with Tomo and shifts his attention to Ogawa, saying he only asked her out because she felt like an easy target. The terrified girl begs him to leave her alone, but when he keeps on spouting nonsense, Tomo kicks him into oblivion, and he loses all his aura points. After getting humiliated, the delinquent gathers his minions to get his revenge on Tomo, but June happens to overhear their conversation and beats them to a pulp. Later, when Tomo finishes her club activities and is about to leave, she spots the boys outside and assumes they've come to fight, but to her surprise, they all kneel in front of her and apologize. Afterwards, when she walks home with June, she comments on how strange their sudden apology was, and June pretends not to know anything, even when she asks him about his bandaged face. The next day, Carol invites Tomo and Misuzu to her house for a girl date. When they arrive, they're stunned to see how huge the property is, and just as they're wondering if she's a real-life capitalist queen, a lady approaches them and asks who they are. When the girls introduce themselves as Carol's friends, she gets suspicious of Tomo, as she mistakes her for a boy, but when she notices her giant melons, she quickly invites them in. As soon as they reach the mansion, Carol throws her arms around the weird lady, who turns out to be her mother. She then hugs Tomo, but when she moves to hug Misuzu, the wannabe emo girl firmly refuses. Just then, Carol points out that they have similar hairstyles, which means they are twinning, so Misuzu immediately undoes her braids and starts looking like a homeless person. After this, Carol leads them to her room, and while Misuzu drinks tea, Tomo flips through Carol's photo album. Just then, Misuzu excuses herself to the bathroom, but on the way, she notices Carol's mother following her, making her question what's up with her. Upon this, the woman says she's curious if Misuzu is a mean girl, since she's been nothing but rude to Carol all this time. Misuzu smirks and asks what would happen if she admitted she is only friends with Carol because she looks like a nepo baby, but the woman laughs, calling her cute, making the girl feel like her little sadistic tactics are no longer working. Meanwhile, Tomo and Carol face each other in a match of Othello, and though Tomo is super confident in her skills, she only survives for a few minutes before losing miserably. When Misuzu returns, she assumes Carol just won by a fluke, but she also ends up losing, making them wonder if Carol really isn't a dumb blonde after all. The following week, Tomo freaks out about forgetting their upcoming midterms, and Misuzu suggests they study together at her place, so Carol also hops on the bandwagon. Just then, June shows up, asking Tomo to study with him, but Misuzu shoots him down, saying a dead-brained loser like him could never teach her. June argues that Misuzu is no better, only for her to remind him she ranked first in their class just recently. After school, the girls meet up at Misuzu's house as planned, and Tomo mentions how it's been such a long time since she last came here. When Carol asks why that is, Tomo shrugs, claiming she can't remember, which immediately annoys Misuzu, who reminds the idiot how she used to break everything in the house. Just then, Misuzu's mother returns, and upon spotting a pair of boyish shoes at the entrance, she assumes her emo daughter has finally found her emo boy toy. However, she's left disappointed when she sees Tomo lounging in the living room instead. Eventually, the girls start studying, and when Tomo comes across a problem she can't solve, Misuzu tries to explain it the hard way, only for Carol to blurt out the right answer without even solving it. When Tomo asks Carol how she arrived at the answer, she explains it in a weird manner, which Tomo somehow understands perfectly. However, this earns them an icy glare from Misuzu, who points out that the proper working method is far more important when doing math. A few hours later, as their study session winds down, Tomo thanks Misuzu for tutoring her and says that if she keeps working hard, she might even get into the same university as her, leaving Misuzu genuinely surprised. Not wanting to be left out, Carol asks if she can join them too, and Misuzu says she totally can, leaving her dumbfounded. Some days later, the results are posted, and Tomo screams like a hobo for securing the 70th spot. While June places 54th and Misuzu second, Carol tops the class, proving that she's truly the reincarnation of Einstein. The next day, June tells Tomo he got a new video game and invites her over to his house to play all night. Getting all excited, Tomo immediately accepts, but later, she panics and starts regretting her decision when she realizes that she and June will be all alone at night. Even so, after school, she informs her mom that she's going over to June's, and she teases her, saying she can't wait to see her spawning little June lookalikes. When she arrives at his house, June mentions that his mother isn't home, which immediately makes Tomo panic as she assumes they'll be doing freaky workouts together. She shrugs it off, and later, when they have dinner, June casually tells her to reheat the water that he took a bath in, if she wants to wash up too. However, Tomo insists that she will take a shower instead, as she cannot imagine letting the same water that touched him touch her too. Later, as Tomo showers, June slaps himself to exorcise all his cultured demons, so when she returns to his room, they start playing the new game he bought. After June racks up victory after victory, he begins teasing her, and somehow they end up tumbling on top of each other. Despite the awkward closeness, June manages to keep control of himself and suggests they call it a night before some freaky plot starts developing between them. Later at night, Tomo lies in bed, unable to sleep, and glances over at June lying on the futon, saying he had a lot of fun before falling asleep. Tomo gives in to her inner demons and crawls down to get a closer look at his face, but to her surprise, he suddenly pulls her towards him and cuddles with her. The next morning, when June wakes up, he malfunctions at the sight of Tomo lying beside him and quickly runs out of the room, which makes her wake up. She notices that she woke up on the floor after sleeping on the bed too, and starts blushing, wondering if she accidentally lost her V-card last night. However, she believes it'll be too good to be true and quietly returns home. The following week, while June and Tomo still act awkwardly around each other, Carol and Misuzu devise new plots for their Wattpad fantasies. A few weeks later, on Tomo's birthday, June gifts her a pair of sunglasses, and the girl thanks him before bragging that she's older than him now. Later at school, when Tomo shows off her glasses to Misuzu, she hands her a gift as well, which turns out to be reference books, making her wonder if she thinks some stupid books can fix her brain damage. Just then, Carol shows up with a huge block of gold as a gift for Tomo, making her question if she robbed a bank for her. However, Carol casually states that she has them lying around the house, so she brought one that was easy for her to carry. Hearing this, Misuzu brings out her inner Italian mafia and asks Carol if she'd allow her to put all this money to good use. As soon as the blondie allows her, the duo turns to Tomo and asks her to come over to Misuzu's house this weekend for a makeover. When the day comes, Tomo arrives and suspiciously asks the girls what they have in mind for her. The two state they will treat her as their personal Barbie doll and turn her into the perfect lady. Once the makeover is complete, Misuzu tells Tomo to quit talking like a jock with tuberculosis for the day, so when Tomo tries talking like a cute girl, Carol can't help but fawn over how nice she looks, making Tomo blush. After the experiment is a success, they kick her out of the house to buy ice cream at the convenience store, and though Tomo feels uncomfortable in the dress and wig, she has no other choice. Upon arriving at the store, she finds June reading a magazine, but he luckily doesn't recognize her. However, he still wonders if this hottie is Tomo in a cosplay, but reminds himself that she could never look so feminine. After grabbing some ice cream, Tomo tries to leave as soon as possible, but trips and falls, so June helps her up. She immediately notices how gently he is handling her, which he usually doesn't, so she asks June to walk with her, and he agrees. As they walk along, Tomo realizes bringing him along was a bad idea because now she cannot control her heartbeat, while June quietly deduces that this girl can't be the real Tomo, as she is taller than her, without noticing the high heels she's wearing. Just then, they pass by a group of boys playing soccer, and Tomo almost breaks character as she watches a girl playing among a group of boys. As the two settle down, June notices the girl walking side by side with a little boy, which reminds him of himself and Tomo. He asks her what she thinks their future holds, so Tomo says that it wouldn't be a surprise if the girl and boy become the endgame couple. Jun says he has a friend like that, too, and although he never imagined things would change between them, lately he cannot help but notice the difference. Surprised by this, Tomo asks what he wants their relationship to be like in the future, and he admits that he hasn't thought that far ahead since he's only focused on beating her at the moment. Hearing this, Tomo is about to reveal her identity, but Jun points out that her ice cream is melting, so she panics and hurries back to Misuza's place after thanking him. Upon her return, Tomo finds the girls planning a surprise party for her birthday and is moved to tears. Later, as the girls settle down to eat the cake, Tomo tells them about the incident with Jun and admits that she liked how differently he acted around her feminine version. The next morning, Jun meets Tomo outside her house and touches her face all of a sudden, which earns him a punch in the face for the 100th time. To Tomo's surprise, Jun starts smirking, and she worries if he's a masochist after all. Later that week, while practicing for the upcoming tournament, Tomo goes totally overboard and ends up scaring her female teammates. Thanks to this, the teacher shifts her to the boys' teams, who are overjoyed to have a hottie like her by their side. However, Tomo feels sad over being separated from her girly pops and wishes she had kept her powers under control. On the day of the tournament, Jun and Tomo's team easily piles up wins after wins and are confident they will clear the finals too. Just then, Tanabe shows up, saying that a guy on the opposing team is a real gigachad, who will be hard for them to defeat. Jun and Tomo immediately recognize him as Goma, their senior, who is notoriously famous for his immense strength. However, the two are unfazed and say they look forward to facing a worthy opponent. As the match is about to begin, Goma tells Tomo he's heard a lot about her but is more interested in Jun, whom he invites to his judo club. Jun says he will only do it if he loses, and with that, the game begins. Goma takes out one player after another from their team while Tomo and Jun stand there helplessly. After he takes out their last background character, Tomo gets pissed and grabs the ball before aiming at him with full strength, only for him to catch the ball easily. When he aims it back at her, Tomo realizes she is dead meat, but Jun gets in the way to protect her and takes the hit on his back. Tomo is deeply touched by his gesture but also furious at Goma for hurting her future husband. The next moment, she makes a second attempt at throwing the ball, but this time, she aims it between his legs. As he stares at her dumbfoundedly, the ball bounces back, and Tanabe catches it. Just then, he lightly throws the ball at the so-called beast, and just like that, takes him out, getting the team their final victory. After the award ceremony, Goma approaches Jun and challenges him to a judo match, and the jock accepts. At the judo club, even though Jun wins the first match, Goma isn't satisfied and ends up sparring with him till he wins more matches than him. After they are done, Goma asks Jun why he hasn't joined any clubs despite his tremendous strength, to which he replies that his only desire is to reach the same level as someone he admires. Later, while Jun and Tomo head home together, Jun tells her about the fight and says she would have easily beaten Goma if she actually tried. He also realizes that the one he wants to catch up to is Tomo, and he wishes that he would do that soon. On a sunny morning, Jun is out on a run, sweating and regretting his decision to run in the scorching heat. He recalls his trainer asking him his reason for going sicko mode in the gym, and he confesses that he is inspired by Tomo's athletic figure. Just then, he remembers that he met Tomo 10 years ago, when his family moved from Tokyo to a smaller, quieter city. As little Jun was busy losing his brain cells playing Candy Crush, Tomo approached him, wanting to become friends. She asked him about Tokyo, mesmerized by the concept of skyscrapers and bullet trains, but Jun was too busy doom-scrolling to care. Desperate to get his attention, Tomo snatched the Game Boy and started smashing random buttons, inevitably snapping the device in half. In a fit of rage, Jun punched her right in the face, being the gentleman that he was, but immediately regretted his decision afterward. However, Tomo begged him to punch her harder since she felt guilty about breaking the Game Boy. This manipulation tactic worked, and Jun calmed down, telling her that it was no big deal. Later that afternoon, a beefy martial artist visited Jun's home, accompanied by Tomo, and begged Jun for forgiveness, saying that he would pay him back for any damage caused by Tomo. This gigachad turned out to be Tomo's dad, named Goro, and Jun was shaking in his boots, just looking at his bulging muscles. They were then interrupted by another red-haired baddie, who introduced herself as Akemi, Tomo's mother. Upon seeing her, both Goro and Tomo hid behind Jun, apparently scared of Akemi's wrath. However, she turned out to be very sweet and decided to settle the matter with Jun's parents herself. Later, as the family was about to leave, Tomo confessed that she wanted to be friends with June. Meanwhile, June was still depressed about all the game progress he lost because of this dumb chick, but he still accepted her proposal. Over the next few days, the two became total besties, but Tomo loved playing outdoors and was insanely athletic. On the other hand, June preferred to stay locked up inside his room playing video games all day long. One day, as the two friends started getting closer, June finally addressed Tomo by her name, instead of using some random insult. This made her extremely happy, and even June felt butterflies in his tummy. The next morning, Tomo introduced another friend of hers to June, who turned out to be the shy but savage Misuzu. The three went bug catching together, and Tomo decided that the ideal spot would be a place that required them to climb up a never-ending staircase. June's puny legs started giving out only after a few minutes, but when he noticed Tomo climbing at an alarming speed with Misuzu on her back, the snoozing athlete inside him awakened. He sprinted to the top, having an imaginary race in his head, all while Misuzu continued taunting him for being a weak man, and June kept falling for the rage bait. They later began searching for bugs, and Tomo soon captured a giant stag beetle. June was thrilled to see this specimen too, while Misuzu was totally disgusted, saying that it was just a fancier cockroach. A few months passed, and June became a lot more outdoorsy, even climbing trees with ease now. One day, as he was busy playing games outside, a couple of bullies approached him, beating him up and stealing his Game Boy. When he returned home, Tomo inquired about the bruises on his face, but June lied and told her that he had just fallen from a tree. However, she sensed something was wrong and investigated the matter, bringing the Game Boy back to June later that afternoon. He could not believe that Tomo went up against the bullies all by herself, and felt ashamed that a girl was so much more of an alpha than he was. So he asked Tomo to keep the Game Boy, saying that he would take it back from her once he became stronger than her. He then began his training arc, practicing with Gojo and determined to redeem his manliness. In the present time, June realizes that 10 years have passed since then, but he is still no match against Tomo. Meanwhile, Tomo is bedrotting at home, wondering when June will take the Game Boy back, as she fully believes that he is much stronger than her. A few days later, the squad decides to spend a day at the beach playing games and sunbathing. Misuzu is not interested in going whatsoever, but Carol convinces her eventually, saying that June's reaction to seeing Tomo in a tight swimsuit will definitely be worth watching. Once they arrive at the beach, the girls quickly change into their hot outfits, while June keeps his eyes pointed at the sky because he doesn't want to be labeled as a gooner. However, when he discovers Tomo hiding in the dressing room with a hoodie on, he accidentally unzips it, revealing her melons in their full glory. Later, after spending some time on the beach, Tomo overcomes her anxiety and even drags June into the water. Meanwhile, the other girls at the beach froth over Tomo's perfect body and wonder why she keeps such a smashing figure hidden under baggy clothes. In the water, Carol gets a bit too comfortable rubbing herself all over June, and Tomo has to intervene by angrily splashing water at them. Later on, Carol asks Misuzu why June has been so awkward the entire day, and she simply points to her assets, not needing to emphasize anymore. Back in the sea, some random wannabe macho man approaches Tomo and attempts to riz her up, but before he can get too close, June rises from the sea and tells the cultured guy to back off. Meanwhile, Tomo loves seeing June getting so overprotective and wishes he would do it more often. Sometime later, as the two are busy slurping up ice cream, Tomo attempts to get closer to June. Even though he appears totally nonchalant from the outside, he is losing his mind on the inside, and wonders why he is having such an intense reaction to Tomo's touch all of a sudden. On the train ride back home, Misuzu notices June sulking around and knows that something has shifted in him. She realizes that he has finally started seeing Tomo as a girl rather than his childhood tomboy friend, and feels really proud of her achievement. Near the end of summer break, the girls have a slumber party where they play a game in which the winner can order someone to do whatever they want. Misuzu wins and continues playing her role as the wingman, ordering Tomo to go to the fireworks show with June, just the two of them this time. Surprisingly, when Tomo asks him out, June agrees to go, but when he learns that it will be just him and Tomo, he gets a bit anxious. That night in bed, June thinks back to the day when Tomo had confessed her love for him, trying to convince himself that it was nothing but platonic love. Meanwhile, at the slumber party, Tomo is busy analyzing June's recent behavior, thinking about how he has been acting more distant and uninterested lately. Finally, the day of the summer festival arrives, and June readies himself to meet Tomo. Meanwhile, Carol and Misuzu decide to couple up to go see their real-life fanfiction. At the festival, June is mesmerized by how pretty Tomo looks in a traditional dress, but he plays it off by saying he feels a bit nauseous. On the other hand, Tomo's arrival causes absolute chaos amongst the vendors, because she is infamously skilled at all the carnival games, winning all the prizes in an instant. Moreover, the vendors are flabbergasted when they actually see Tomo's transformation into a baddie, since she has always looked like a degenerate in the years past. Meanwhile, Misuzu regrets her decision to come to the festival the second she sees that Carol has brought Misaki along with her, because now she will become the third wheel. Later that night, Tomo is approached by two cultured guys who start hitting on her and ask her out on a date. Thankfully, June arrives at the scene and rescues Tomo, later apologizing to her for interfering, since he firmly believes that Tomo could have taken care of the losers with a couple of punches. However, Tomo desperately wants June to play the role of a toxic, overprotective boyfriend, so she expresses her gratitude, saying that she is glad that June was there to help her out. The two walk up some stairs to get a better angle to watch the fireworks show, and Tomo considers confessing her feelings once again. However, she soon realizes that now is not the right time and stays silent, as colorful fireworks go off in the sky. On their way back home, Tomo confesses that she had a lot of fun and would like to go out with him again sometime soon. Staring at her pretty face, June realizes that he will probably never have a punching match with her ever again, as he can see past her tomboy nature now. The next day, the girls are back at school, but Tomo is in an unusually bad mood. She spills the tea later, saying that June has become extremely careful around her, and he doesn't even smack her in the mornings like he used to. In class, Misuzu has trouble focusing on the lecture since she is busy contemplating the change in dynamics between Tomo and June. Later that day, Misuzu is walking back home when she is ambushed by the delinquent club leader whom Tomo and June previously cooked, as he wants to get revenge on them. However, he and his minions feel intimidated by her psychotic aura instead. Just as they repress their fear and attempt to take her away for a good beating, Carol arrives at the scene and attempts to rescue Misuzu with her sub-waifu personality. However, when she realizes that her charm won't work on these incels, she pulls out a taser and zaps the leader like a mosquito. The girls sprint and hide at a nearby abandoned factory, but the goons are able to track them down. Misuzu calls June in an emergency, asking for help, but begging him not to tell Tomo. June, on the other hand, is terrible at keeping secrets since his tense expression gives it away, so he eventually has to spill the details to Tomo as well. As expected, Tomo rolls up her sleeves and is ready to punch some goons in the guts, saying that she would do anything to save her friends. Meanwhile, Misaki is eavesdropping on this conversation, worried about his future wife Carol being in danger. Back at the factory, the gang leader finally sniffs out the girls hiding in a corner. As he is about to get his grimy hands all over Misuzu, Tomo comes to the rescue, fuming with anger. Meanwhile, June takes on the rest of the gang like a gigachad, his years of martial arts training finally coming into play. Misaki also reaches the factory sometime later and discovers Carol in a filthy condition, covered in mud and bruises. He sprints toward the gang leader to make him pay for his sins, and together the squad turns each gang member into a smoothie. Once they are done with the beating, Misuzu asks everyone to leave, saying that she wants to discuss something with the leader. She later reveals to the gang that Tomo is the legendary martial artist's only daughter and threatens to inform him about their harassment if it ever happens again. Outside the factory, June realizes that Misuzu could have told the gang about Tomo's father from the get-go, which would have prevented this scary situation from happening. But she intentionally ran to hide in this abandoned factory so the goons could get a taste of their own medicine. The next morning, Tomo is busy thinking about the previous night, regretting her decision to become a savage and fight like a maniac, just when June had finally started seeing her as a girl. However, June surprises her by greeting her with his usual affection, which is enough to uplift her spirits for the day. In a flashback, Misaki was busy being extremely annoying and grumpy when his mother announced that Carol would be visiting their home. At first, he was completely uninterested, but when she barged in and greeted him with the full force of her bubbly charm, Misaki could not help but fall in love right at the spot. In the present time, Misaki approaches Goro to get some training, inspired by Tomo and June's incredible fighting skills. After a thorough analysis, Goro announces that Misaki is a good-for-nothing weakling and needs a lot of work, which comes as no surprise to him. They put poor Misaki in the trenches right from the start, making him run insane distances, and then forcing him to do crazy strength training. Finally, he comes face to face with June in a fighting duel, and Misaki taunts him, trying to anger him so that he will not go easy on him. However, June remains calm, dodging all of Misaki's weak punches and lecturing him throughout the fight. Misaki finally manages to land a small scratch on his face and receives a minor blow to his belly in the process, which completely knocks him out. He wakes up sometime later with Tomo sitting next to him, who asks him if he is doing all this crazy training for Carol's sake. He confesses that it is true, since Carol has a habit of getting in trouble since they were young, so he wants to be sure that he will be able to protect her the next time she is in danger. Misaki's confidence in his strength has massively gone down after his duel with June, but Tomo reassures him that physical strength is not everything, and that there are other forms of strength that he excels in. The next morning, on their way to school, Misaki reveals to Carol his recent training at the dojo. He goes on to sing praises about Tomo's strength and how he wants to reach her level of chadness, while Carol silently nods along, filled with jealousy. Feeling in the mood for some pettiness, Carol asks June to hang out with her after school. When Misuzu confronts her about this weird homewrecker behavior, she bluntly responds that not everything has to go along with Misuzu's plans. After school, June and Carol awkwardly hang out at a park, where she confesses that she has been intentionally trying to hurt Tomo and Misuzu because of her own insecurities. June reassures her that Tomo is quite mature and will not give up on her friends just because of some petty love triangle that doesn't even exist. Somehow, Carol's manipulation works, and she ends up in June's room while he is brainstorming ideas to kick her out as soon as possible. Carol informs him that the person she likes does not seem to be reciprocating her feelings, and puts the blame partially on June. She kisses him on the cheek and gets on top of him, while June the Gigachad feels completely helpless under this dumb blonde chick. He somehow manages to escape the freaky situation before things can get too spicy, and he runs to Tomo's house, giving her a tight hug out of relief. He then realizes that the reason why he still sees Tomo as a boy is because of the deal they had made about his Game Boy all those years ago. The next morning, Carol apologizes to Misuzu and pretends that nothing happened. She remembers telling Misaki about her hangout with June, making sure to include the spicy details. Her trick works like magic, and Misaki becomes jealous, which was Carol's plan all along. Meanwhile, Misuzu realizes that she has another couple on her hands now to give therapy to, so she arranges a meeting with Misaki. She confronts him about his real feelings for Carol, and although he stutters at first, he eventually confesses that he really loves her. Misuzu asks him why he is not asking her out then, and he replies that Carol is too much of a baddie, which intimidates him. Misuzu comes up with a twisted plan to bring the lovebirds closer, while Misaki wonders what exactly is going on in her psychotic brain. She later approaches Carol, who is impatiently waiting to hear about her conversation with Misaki. However, Misuzu straight up lies, telling her that Misaki simply sees her as her little sister, and that she probably has no chance to get with him. This traumatizes Carol deeply, whose sunshine personality disappears in an instant, and she rushes back home. Misuzu is shaken up by seeing Carol's terrifying expression, and she quickly approaches Misaki, urging him to visit Carol's house immediately. When Misaki finally arrives at her place, he is greeted by Carol's mom first, who headbutts him as revenge for hurting her daughter. He takes the blow and rushes to her room, feeling like he is about to go to war. As he enters the room, he finds Carol sobbing on her bed, and when he sees her messed up face, he realizes that Carol is just a girl who gets lonely easily. He was idolizing her and putting her on a pedestal, which was making it hard for him to ask her out on a date. Carol starts smacking him with her pillow, but stops when Misaki announces that what Misuzu has told her is all a lie. He finally confesses his true feelings to Carol, which uplifts her spirits in an instant, and all of her doom and gloom vanishes. In the heat of the moment, she is about to kiss him when her mom intervenes, telling them to stop being freaky. The mom gives Misaki a lecture about treating her daughter right, and he politely agrees to her never-ending terms and conditions. The next morning at school, Carol puts on a creepy mask and quietly approaches Misuzu, who is scared for her life. However, when she gets closer, Carol takes off the mask and kisses her, thanking her for setting her up with Misaki. The next day, the students are busy preparing to run a marathon, and Tomo is excited to finally put all her training to use. June makes a bet with her that the loser has to pay for drinks for a whole week, and Tomo confidently agrees. Meanwhile, Misuzu notices Tanabe waving at her from the crowd, screaming that he will win this marathon in her honor. Once the marathon begins, June and Tomo get way ahead of the rest of the crowd while having casual banter on the way. Tomo tells him that she knows that he does not enjoy fighting her in karate anymore, but this run will give them a good place to challenge each other, fair and square. Meanwhile, some random chick decides to get on a bike to reach the finish line, but Tomo and June are way too competitive to let anyone outrun them, so they run for their lives trying to keep up with the bike. After some time, the the duo reaches a sign signaling the turning point for girls, and June is disappointed that he will not get a chance to actually challenge her. However, Tomo shows no intentions of following the rules for girls as she sprints past the sign and tells June that she wants to have a fair match with him. At the same time, Misaki is running with his friends, who compliment him on his improved stamina and endurance, all thanks to his relentless training at the dojo. However, his feeling of being a gigachad is short-lived, as June and Tomo sprint past them at lightning speed, and everyone realizes they have already reached the checkpoint and are on their way back to finish the marathon. At the same time, June and Tomo are trying their absolute best to beat one another, but June soon notices that Tomo is falling behind until she eventually collapses on the road. June runs back to find that she is burning up with a fever, and Tomo confesses that she was running for hours the day before to prepare for this marathon, which has finally made her sick. After some contemplating, June carries Tomo on his back and runs for the finish line, feeling satisfied that his athletic body is finally being put to good use. A few hours later, Tomo wakes up in a hospital bed with her friends by her side, and Misuzu tells her that June carried her to the finish line, which automatically made him the winner and a hero. June arrives at the scene soon after, and Misuzu whispers in Tomo's ear, telling her to use this sickness to her utmost advantage and depend on June for every little thing. Tomo realizes that her friends are being extra nice to her all of a sudden, which is because she rarely ever gets sick. After spending some time with her, June stands up to leave, but Tomo remembers Misuzu's advice and asks him to carry her on his back. June is taken aback by this, but eventually agrees to give her another piggyback ride, carrying her all the way outside the hospital to her mom's car. The next morning, he visits Tomo's house to check up on her, only to discover that she has made a rapid recovery. June is surprised when Tomo hands him the Game Boy she had borrowed all those years ago, signaling that June has finally overcome her in strength and agility. A few days later, during their training at the dojo, June manages to land a hit on Tomo for the first time in his life, further proving his improvement. In a flashback scene from their earlier school years, June notices Tomo wearing a skirt and comments on how her progressive fashion has been getting crazy these days, still under the impression that she is a boy. Once he realizes that she is of the opposite gender, June starts feeling weird hanging around Tomo all the time. Their friends start gossiping about the two of them potentially dating, which creates a barrier between June and Tomo, so they start avoiding each other and spend less time together. June regrets distancing himself from her and starts brainstorming ways to become besties again. Just then, he realizes that his weird relationship with Tomo can only be solved if he starts dating a girly girl, which will hopefully resolve his complicated feelings toward Tomo. Right at that moment, Misuzu approaches him, and June takes this as the perfect opportunity to ask her out, knowing that they both have zero interest in one another. They go on a bike ride up a mountain on their first date, but Misuzu struggles to keep herself alive during the whole ride. Next, they go on a fishing trip, but she is way too grossed out by the wiggly worms and stinky fish to have a good time. By going on these adventurous dates with June, she realizes that she has been an awful friend to Tomo, since she doesn't like any outdoor activities. The next day at school, she is in quite a depressed state and shares her feelings with Tomo. However, Tomo is extremely supportive and reassures her that the quiet time she spends with Misuzu is infinitely more rewarding than the time she spends with the smelly guys playing sports. Eventually, June and Tomo both realize that dating each other to ignore their problems is not a viable solution, and decide to mutually break up without any hard feelings. Later that afternoon, June gathers up courage and approaches Tomo, asking to walk her back home and have a talk. On their walk back, Tomo finally lets out her frustrations, beating up June into a smoothie and asking him why he ignored her for a year straight. He confesses that everyone thought they were dating, so he distanced himself to get rid of the rumors. The two finally work out their feud and decide to become best buddies like they used to be. In the present time, June finds himself reconsidering his feelings for Tomo once again, and when he sees her hanging outside his house, he can't help but notice how cute she looks. A few days later at school, Tomo finds herself worrying about her unemployment era, since June's birthday is coming up and she has no money to buy him a gift. Misuzu suggests that she work in the service industry, warning her that she will get fired on day one if she picks a fight with any customers. Misuzu decides to work alongside Tomo to guide her, and even their rich daddy's princess tags along, simply happy to be there. Tanabe has been eavesdropping on this conversation and offers the girls a part-time job at his family's ramen shop. His dad is excited to have some extra hands on board, since he has been running the shop with his wife this entire time. The girls are forced into their uniforms, and Tomo wonders why they need to be dressed in skimpy maid outfits to work at a ramen shop. Once the customers start pouring in, Misuzu's entire demeanor changes, and she turns out to be a god at customer service. Meanwhile, Carol turns out to be utterly useless, so she is put on advertisement duty to stand outside the shop and attract customers with her cute face. A couple of hours in, June walks into the shop, shocked to see Tomo and the girls hard at work. Misuzu politely gets him seated, asking him if he has noticed Tomo in her tight-made outfit. He turns red as a tomato and quietly slurps on his noodles, telling Tomo that he will surely revisit the shop soon to see her again. Meanwhile, Carol has turned into a niche ramen celebrity and has created an army of fanboys who come barging in. The crew works tirelessly for 3 days straight until they get their first paycheck. As the girls clock out from work, they find June waiting outside. Misuzu and Carol get the hint immediately and go the opposite direction, giving June and Tomo some privacy. On their walk back home, June confesses that although he has had the shop's ramen numerous times, it tasted better when Tomo served it to him. Tomo pretends to be tough and accepts the compliment, even though she is blushing hard and melting on the inside. A few days pass, and June's birthday finally arrives, as Tomo gifts him a matching wristwatch bought with her hard-earned money. They decide to have a party at Tomo's house later that night, excited to finally have an occasion to celebrate. That day at school, Tomo asks Misuzu for advice on how to progress things with June, and Misuzu tells her that it is time to get physical. She comes up with an elaborate plan to push June from a staircase right into Tomo's arms, and she gladly accepts the challenge, eager to show her strength. When June walks past her, Misuzu casually shoves him, looking like a psycho out on the hunt for victims. However, June knows he is about to crash straight into Tomo's melons, so he changes trajectory mid-fall, landing straight into Carol instead. This causes him to get another beating from Tomo, despite it not even being his fault. Later that afternoon, Misuzu ends up tripping on a staircase herself, falling straight into Tanabe's arms. She thanks Tanabe for saving her from getting a skull fracture, asking how she can repay him. He takes this as the perfect opportunity to get Misuzu's phone number, feeling like it is his lucky day. Meanwhile, Misuzu feels extremely guilty about almost ending June's life, fully believing that her efforts to bring June and Tomo together have only been making them drift apart. She becomes so depressed that she is absent from school for 3 days straight, until Tomo is forced to raid her house to see what's wrong. She finds Misuzu sulking in her room and confronts her about her recent absence. However, no amount of sweet treats can pull Misuzu out of her emo era, so Tomo gives up and leaves. She leaves behind a script for a Cinderella play that they are all participating in at the upcoming cultural festival, urging Misuzu to read up and prepare. The next day at school, Misuzu arrives at class fuming with anger, as she has just learned that she will be playing the role of Cinderella. Meanwhile, Tomo has been given the role of the prince, while June will be playing a background tree, which quite suits his boring personality. Misuzu and Tomo decide to head to the roof to practice their lines, since they were both too embarrassed to do it in front of the entire class. Tomo confesses that being cast as the prince will not help her case in becoming a girl in June's eyes. Misuzu feels incredibly guilty, since it was she who had advised her to act more like a girly girl in the first place, and Tomo had taken that advice to heart. The next day at practice, the girls are swooning over Tomo, who looks dashing dressed as a prince, while the boys are drooling over Misuzu dressed like their very own Cinderella. On their way back home, Tomo asks June to play the role of Cinderella to help practice her lines. However, she ends up having too much fun playing the male lead, while imagining June as a helpless, submissive princess wanting a kiss from her Prince Charming. Finally, the highly anticipated cultural day arrives, and all the moms gather in the theater to watch the performances, cameras in hand to ensure every embarrassing moment lives on forever. Tanabe starts the play by introducing the characters. Then Misuzu, Carol, and Tomo put on a brilliant show by retelling the story of Cinderella. Meanwhile, June is trying his best to deliver an Oscar-worthy performance of a tree, making sure he stands as still as possible. They twist the play and end it on a wholesome note, as the crowd erupts in applause and they heave a sigh of relief, glad to be done with the play. Backstage, June asks Tomo to explore the festival with him, and the two head to a maid cafe first, where Tomo is treated with utmost respect while June receives the tree treatment. Next, they head to a haunted house, where the ghosts try their best to jump scare them. However, they soon realize that the real monster is Tomo, who keeps attacking anyone who attempts to scare her. Their next stop is the food stalls outside, where they eat delicious snacks from food shops and continue their banter. Tomo takes this moment to be grateful for the fun time she always has when she is with June. However, she is nervous now because she believes that in the process of becoming Jun's partner, she might end up losing this beautiful friendship as well. Later that afternoon, the students get in pairs and dance around a campfire, and Jun asks Tomo to pair up with him. As they slowly circle around the fire, Jun almost makes a love confession, but Tomo runs away before he can finish the sentence. Over the next few days, Tomo pretends the campfire dance never happened, and whenever Jun attempts to bring up his confession, she runs away instead. Jun is confused whether to take this avoidance as rejection or not, getting extremely mixed signals from Tomo. At school, even Carol and Misuzu pick up on the fact that something happened at the festival, judging by Tomo's weird behavior ever since. Later that day, Jun runs into Misaki at school and asks him for some love advice, desperate to sort things out with Tomo. Misaki tells him to be absolutely honest and tell Tomo exactly how he feels, sharing how this advice has helped him foster his relationship with Carol. Jun feels incredibly inspired after getting the pep talk from Misaki and immediately rushes to Misuzu to set things right. He apologizes to her for dating her all those years back, saying that he should not have used her to escape his problems in that manner. Misuzu is touched by his thoughtfulness, but continues to put on her unbothered demeanor, telling him to go and bother the person he really loves. Jun writes an anonymous letter to Tomo, challenging her to a duel on the school rooftop. He knows that Tomo will not be able to resist the temptation of a good old-fashioned fistfight, and she falls right into his trap. When she gets there, Tomo realizes Jun's trickery and knows that she has nowhere left to run. However, Jun begins the conversation by apologizing, referring to the eventful day under the cherry blossom tree when Tomo had made her first confession. Jun says that he has now realized that she had loved him more than just a friend, and that he should have realized sooner and addressed his own feelings sooner as well. Tomo punches him a couple of times just to let her frustration out, but then realizes she is not any better, as she is the one running away from her feelings now. Jun finally blurts out his true feelings, saying that he loves Tomo, regardless of how she feels for him. Tomo turns red and calls him stupid, wanting to jump from the roof but choosing to walk down the stairs instead. She meets up with the girls immediately, sharing with them her embarrassing encounter with Jun. Misuzu is also feeling inspired by Jun's honesty, and she finally tells Tomo the truth that has been bugging her this entire time. Misuzu confesses that she is the reason why Tomo and Jun have not been able to get together yet, because she tried meddling in their love affairs and forced Tomo to become more girly. However, this only made things more awkward for the two lovebirds, and she has not realized that she should have encouraged Tomo to be fully herself. Tomo accepts the apology, saying that she should not have put Misuzu in the spot and asked for such heavy advice out of the blue. Finally, the girls feel a lot better now that they have had a therapy session, and Misuzu urges Tomo to seek out Jun and confess her feelings, reassuring her that things will work out in their favor. Tomo sprints to search for Jun and finds him just exiting the school building. She catches up with him and apologizes for running away, asking him to give her another chance. The two head back home together, where Tomo asks Jun if he is okay with them not being best buddies anymore, since she believes that they can either be partners or best friends, but not both. Hearing this, Jun challenges Tomo to another race, losing to her as per usual. Once they both have reached the top, Jun tells her that this is exactly the kind of relationship he wants to have with her. He tells her that she has been his childhood friend, his rival, and now his girlfriend, but he doesn't want to give up on the bond they have just because they have started dating. Tomo is touched by this romantic monologue, finally telling him that she loves him too. Jun nearly has a heart attack when he hears this, as he dramatically rolls down the stairs with a smile plastered across his face. A few days later, Tomo tells Jun that she will be walking back home with the girls instead of him. Jun takes this news surprisingly well, but the girls were expecting him to throw a temper tantrum. Instead, he says that he wants to be a supportive boyfriend who does not tie down his girlfriend, and gets a smacking in response by the girls for being overly romantic. Later that day, the girls are busy gossiping at lunch, as Tomo fills in her friends with the recent developments in her blossoming relationship. Misuzu weighs in, saying that it is time for them to take things to the next level by sharing a kiss, recommending that she go to the cinema and watch a romantic movie together. Tomo spends the next week staring at the intimate movie poster, trying to stop herself from blushing so that when the couple finally heads out to the theater, she stays cool and judges Jun for freaking out over a kissing couple. When they meet up for their date, Jun awkwardly compliments her cute dress, saying that he is not used to complimenting women, so he has trouble articulating his thoughts. But Tomo is on the moon with this bare minimum attitude regardless. In the theater, the movie turns out to be a lot freakier than anticipated, and Tomo is too stunned to make any sort of move in the dark room. Afterward, June confesses that he was not into romance movies before, but ever since he has fallen in love with Tomo, he has started enjoying those stories because he is finally able to relate. Since it is near Christmas time, June gifts Tomo a pair of earrings that look pretty dangling from her ears. Meanwhile, she gifts him a hand-knit muffler, and June immediately wraps it around his neck. As the couple is strolling down the street, admiring the Christmas decorations, Tomo tells June that she wants to come spend the night at his place. This is the first time Tomo has spent the night at June's house since they officially became a couple, and although they have spent countless nights together, something about this hangout feels different. The two remain silent awkwardly, but Tomo decides to make the first move, slowly moving closer to June. Unable to tolerate the awkwardness anymore, Tomo tells June that she took him out to see the movie because she wanted to kiss him. June confesses that he wants to kiss her too, but he wants to be a gentleman and take things slowly, cherishing each step in their new relationship. He also tells her that he has already reached out to her parents and gotten her mom's blessings, revealing that Tomo's father was a bit apprehensive and has told him that he is only allowed to date his daughter if he can beat him in a fight. Tomo cannot believe her own father would want her to remain single forever, and she rushes back home to confront him. Goro remains totally speechless, not giving any reasoning behind his outrageous demand, while Tomo sobs and tells him that she hates him. Tomo spends the next few days holed up in her room, not even meeting June, who attempts to visit her every single day. The new year begins, and Misuzu and Carol have also not heard anything from Tomo since Christmas, so they know that it must be something related to June that has gotten her depressed. Once classes are back in session, June finally meets Tomo at school and promises her that he will try his absolute best to beat her father. However, he is not confident whatsoever in his strength and prepares Tomo for the worst-case scenario. Misuzu and Carol also confront Tomo about her radio silence over the winter break, saying that all their winter plans of doing fun stuff like skiing did not leave the group chat because of her absence. Tomo spills the tea about her recent relationship drama, saying that it might take June several years before he is strong enough to defeat Goro. Misuzu tells her to take initiative rather than watch her life fall apart because of nonsense like this, advising her to figure out a way to dissolve this strange feud between June and Goro. After class, June gets up from his seat and announces that he will be heading to the dojo to challenge Goro, leaving Tomo puzzled by this sudden burst of motivation. At the dojo, Goro confesses that he thought June would back down once he made the offer, so it is already a good sign that he is standing before him. Meanwhile, back at school, Misaki informs Tomo that June has been stressing over this fight for weeks now, advising her to go to the dojo and cheer him on. Tomo realizes that June needs all the moral support he can get right now and runs back home to cheer on her boyfriend. Back at the dojo, June is getting absolutely destroyed by Goro, who tells him to give up and try again after some training. Right at that moment, Tomo arrives at the scene, filling June with determination and motivating him to get back on his feet. June realizes that the entire reason why Goro is fighting him is that he knows how strong and reckless Tomo is, how she is always ready to put her life at risk for total strangers. So, Goro wants his daughter to date a man who is equally as strong as her and has a few more brain cells so that she can stay safe. June knows that he will have to risk his life to beat Goro, and he is willing to do that for the girl he loves. After getting knocked out multiple times, June finally finds an opening and punches Goro right in the face, defeating him in the duel. Later that afternoon, June officially asks Tomo out on a date, since he is legally allowed to do so now. In response, Tomo kisses him, saying that she will be making his heart race in more ways than one from now on. The couple ends the day wrapped up in a tight embrace, their years of struggle with self-identity and complicated feelings for one another finally concluding in a beautiful relationship. Should June have ended up with Misuzu instead? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more awesome recaps.